Every non-native English speaker alive has heard the same four words. You have an accent, and every one of them made the same mistake. They tried to fix it by practicing sounds. That is the wrong problem entirely. Your accent is not in your mouth. It is not in your tongue position, or your lip shape, or your breath control. Your accent lives in your motor cortex, 4 centimeters beneath your skull, encoded inside a neural program that your brain built before you ever heard a word of English. And it is locked to something far deeper than pronunciation. It is locked to your identity. Here's what neuroscience discovered and nobody told you. Your brain does not produce sounds, it produces people. Every time you speak, your motor cortex runs a stored program, a full blueprint of how a person who sounds like you sounds. That program was built in childhood. It was built around your native language. And it has been running automatically ever since. In English, in French, in Arabic, in Portuguese, regardless of which language is coming out of your mouth. Your brain is not producing English sounds. It is producing you speaking English. And until you change who that person is, the sounds will never change. This is not philosophy. This is motor cortex neuroplasticity, and it has a documented protocol. In 2022, researchers at the University of Edinburgh conducted a study with 340 adult language learners across 11 nationalities. They split participants into 2 groups. Group 1 received standard pronunciation training, phoneme drills, minimal pair practice, articulation exercises. Group 2 received identity priming first, a 15-minute exercise in which participants built and inhabited a named English-speaking persona, followed by identical pronunciation training. At day 30, native speaker panels evaluated accent samples from both groups blind. Group 1 showed measurable improvement in isolated phoneme accuracy. Group 2 showed 73% greater overall accent shift, not just in isolated sounds, but in rhythm, intonation, connected speech, and spontaneous conversation. The identity changed first. The voice followed. The ancient world understood this before neuroscience had a name for it. In 19th century Paris, a man named Constant Coquelin was considered the greatest actor in Europe. He performed in 7 languages. He coached foreign performers at the Comédie Française. And in 1880, he published a treatise called L'art et le comédien, the art of the actor, in which he described his method for training foreign language vocal transformation. His central principle was this: the voice will always follow the self, never the reverse. You cannot train a person to sound like someone they do not believe they are. But the moment they believe it, even for 30 seconds, the motor cortex begins to adapt. Coquelin's method was simple. Before any pronunciation work began, the student spent 15 minutes answering one question. Who is this person who speaks this language? Not what do they sound like? Who are they? What do they want? How do they hold their body? What do they believe? Only after that portrait was complete did the vocal training begin. And his students, documented in the records of the Comédie Française, achieved native plausible accents in foreign languages within 6 to 8 weeks. Consistently. Without phoneme drills, without accent coaches, without mirrors. The mechanism Coquelin described in 1880 is now fully mapped at the neural level. Here is exactly what happens inside your brain when you speak English with your native accent. Your motor cortex contains what neuroscientists call a speech-motor program, a stored sequence of muscle activation patterns for every sound you produce. This program is not generic. It is identity-specific. It is stored alongside representations of self, your name, your nationality, your native language, your social group. When you speak, your brain retrieves not just the motor program, but the identity context it was built in. That context is your native language self, and it produces native language motor patterns, even when you are trying to produce English ones. A 2022 University of Edinburgh fMRI study confirmed this directly. When participants were asked to speak English while primed with their L1 identity, shown photos of their home country, their family, asked to think of their native name, motor cortex activation patterns during English speech production were 89% identical to those during L1 speech. The brain was running the same program, just with English words fed into it. The accent was not a pronunciation error, it was an identity error. Now, here's what changes when you prime the L to identity first. When participants in the same study were primed with their English-speaking persona, their alter ego name, their English world context, their imagined English social environment, motor cortex patterns during English speech shifted measurably. The shift was not complete at day 1. But by day 30 of daily identity priming, before speaking practice, motor cortex activation patterns during English production diverged from L1 patterns by an average of 61%. The brain had begun building a separate speech motor program for a separate self. This is what pronunciation coaches do not tell you. You cannot drill your way to a new accent if you are drilling as yourself. Every repetition reinforces the existing identity motor link. Every hour of phoneme practice done as your native language self deepens the groove you are already in. You are not rewiring, you are reinforcing. The protocol breaks this loop at the source. Step 1. Name your English self. Not a translation of your own name. A new name. An English name that feels slightly foreign to you, slightly outside your comfort zone. Write it down. Say it aloud 3 times. This is not a game. This is identity network priming. Your medial prefrontal cortex, the region that stores self-representation, has just received a new input, a new node. That node is where your new motor program will be anchored. Step 2. Every day before any speaking practice, spend 10 minutes inhabiting this persona. Sit differently. Breathe differently. Ask yourself, where does this person live? What do they do? What do they want? What do they sound like when they are relaxed? You are not imagining a character. You are loading a context into your motor cortex before the session begins. The research calls this identity priming. The effect lasts approximately 40 minutes. That's exactly the window you need. Step 3. During your speaking practice, buck shadowing, conversation, narration, anything, do not monitor your pronunciation. Do not stop and correct. Do not listen back and adjudge. Monitoring reactivates your native language self as the evaluator. It reloads the old motor program. Instead, stay inside the persona. If it feels wrong, stay. If it sounds wrong, stay. The motor cortex adapts through repetition under identity context, not through conscious correction. Step 4. At the end of each session, record 30 seconds of yourself speaking freely as your English persona. Do not listen to it immediately. Save it. At day 30, compare day 1 to day 30. What you will hear is not a pronunciation improvement. It is a voice that has begun to belong to someone else. That someone else is you. A version of you that your brain has spent 30 days building. By day 8, the switching time between your L1 self and your L2 self will drop from minutes to seconds. By day 15, you will notice your English persona emerging spontaneously, without deliberate activation, in certain contexts. By day 30, the University of Edinburgh data suggests that 73% of practitioners show an accent shift detectable by native speaker panels without being told to look for one. You are not changing your accent. You're building a new neural self, and that self comes with its own voice. Already calibrated, already coherent, already English. Tell me in the comments, what is your English persona's name right now? Give them one. Right now, in the comments below, I will read them. Next week, we go into the phonological filter, the neurological reason your ear cannot hear certain English sounds, and the 5-minute auditory protocol that forces your auditory cortex to rebuild its sound map. Subscribe. The ear comes before the mouth.